Ben thought being a virgin was bad enough. Now he even had to die for it. It all started when he began his freshman year at New York University in the entering class of 2019. When he got off the train in Manhattan, his eyes shone from the surrounding splendor. In every direction there were skyscrapers, APers, luxury shops, and most importantly, beauties of every type imaginable. This is the beginning of my colorful student life, is what he thought to himself, right before a taxi drove over a puddle and soaked him in grimy street water. He became brown and putrid. That was just a little bad luck, it's nothing. Little did he know, but that would be the best part of his day. As he arrived to his university dormitory, every student pointed and laughed at the wet, dirty burrito passing through the building. A student on his floor from the graphic design department even found time to make memes of him, posting them on flyers all over the walls of his dormitory floor. Do you want me in a bowl or pita bread? Guacamole is extra. Eat me if you want diarrhea. They were all signed Wet Dirty Burrito King and even had his room number written on them. My colorful student life, I can't let it end like this, is what he said to himself right before he saw the 50 personal burrito orders written on post-its glued to his door. The students had deemed him the unofficial mascot of Haldon Dormitory. How can it be like this? He asked himself as he sat on the tiny bed of his dorm room. It hasn't even been a day and I'm already finished. Am I going to remain a virgin forever? Yes, a slightly robotic, bell-like female voice emerged out of nowhere. Who said that? He shot up from the bed, searching in every direction but finding no one. Congratulations, you have been judged to possess the worst destiny with women. He responded, how is that worthy of congratulations? I'm already at rock bottom and now even ghosts are taking shots at me. I am not a ghost, I am the voice of the system speaking within your head. Your plight has inspired the charity of the heavens. You've unlocked the pickup artist system. His ears perked up when he heard that. For real, yes, my time has arrived. You have 1 month to seduce a woman or you will die. Ben froze with his fists still in the air. Can you repeat that? 1 month, seduce or die. His excitement degenerated into desperation. What the hell? How? I'm an 18-year-old virgin. After taking a minute to calm down, Ben realized it wasn't as bad as he thought. Okay, it's not impossible. It's college after all, so if I lower my standards to the absolute bottom, it should be doable. No slam donkeys, 7+ looks only. 7+, you might as well tell me to seduce a goddess. And what kind of system talks like that? Another minute later, Ben came up with another unstoppable plan. In the worst case, I can borrow some money and get a prostitute somewhere. No pay piggings. You're forcing me to die. This time the system didn't contradict him. Ben tried to come up with other ideas, but all he came up with were songs for his funeral. I've heard that people diagnosed with terminal illnesses feel more alive than ever before after they find out, so why do I feel like sh*T? Ben sulked. This system's been misnamed, you should call it the execution system instead. Wait, it is a system in the end, maybe there's more to it. System, what else can you tell or show me besides insults? Appearing out of thin air like a hologram, a transparent blue screen appeared in front of him. It was a vertical menu with a few categories. Stats, challenges, store. Ben sighed in relief. At long last, things are looking up. He opened stats and read down them one by one. Looks 2, you're short, chubby, and have idiotic hair. This one was rounded up. Rounded up, okay, my looks aren't my strong suit. Charisma, 0. If someone had a choice between hugging you or a fire, they would hug the fire and then chase you for revenge. What? Social status, 2. Better than a homeless person, but students are in the bottom rung of society where you live. Fair enough. Seduction skills, 0. You might get rejected by a tree. I've never tried, you don't know. Knowledge, 4. More knowledge means more conversation topics. Not too bad. Ben's head rose upwards in pride. Manliness, 1. You're one step away from being a woman, and this isn't that kind of system. His head came right back down in shame. Communication, 3. You spent your youth talking trash in video games. This achievement is the result of your effort. Personal talent, 2. Art, music, sports. How hard is it to find something you're not bad at? Get your life together. I've been trying. PUA points, 550 points accrued for accomplishments in pickup artistry. Can be used to purchase items in the store. 550, how did I get that? Ben scanned his memories. He couldn't even remember speaking to any girls since middle school. After a long time, he recalled that he did have a girlfriend in middle school for one summer and even kissed several other girls that year. That was his golden age when he was thin and a bit taller than others. It was a beautiful time when he had reason to be bright and optimistic about his future. It wasn't until high school arrived when everyone else grew and he stayed the same height that he realized everything changed. People considered him short from then on. As everyone else became taller and bulkier, his results in athletics became worse and worse until he even started to get bullied. To escape, he stopped doing sports altogether. He became introverted, spending his time at home playing video games and reading web novels, gaining weight as a result. After that, everyone shunned. Only later did he discover that he peaked in middle school, which still made him angry when he thought about it. I'm not Harry Potter, who the hell peaks at 13? What? Forget it, I'll be dead in a month anyway, so it's no time to be upset about the past. Ben decided to move forward and open the challenges, where he discovered one entry. Novice welcome, seduce a woman within 1 month or die. Thanks for the warm welcome. Ben opened novice welcome to see if there were any more details. Reward: punishment eradication. Conditions: no slam donkeys, no pay pigging. He shook his head and went back to the main menu screen, opening the final store selection. His brows knitted at what he saw. Why is there only one item? The system has many functions that are hidden until they're unlocked. That includes store items that you cannot afford with your current balance of PUA points. Ben examined the available item. Low-level mystery box, 500 points, contains a random item anywhere from trash to rare grade. Ben had enough points to acquire one of these. It only took him a few moments to come to a decision. I'm already on my way to the abyss. It seems like this mystery box is the only hope I have. Maybe I could get something amazing that'll help me. Before buying it, Ben closed his eyes and clenched his fists. He couldn't stop his forehead from sweating because he knew this was his only chance to live. Desperate but hopeful, Ben steeled himself, opened his eyes, and made the purchase. A small candy apple red box with a white question mark on top materialized in front of him, falling into his lap. When he touched it, a bright light filled the room. Life or death, it was in this little box. Ben held his breath as his eyes stared downward, shimmering with both fear and hope. The light faded to reveal his fate. It was a ripped-off corner of a paper with some scrawling on it. Well, good games. Ben embraced his doom tightly like a long-lost lover. In his head, he wrote a bucket list of things to do over the next and final month. You have gained Divine Pickup Line consumable fine X1. Wait, Divine, that should be a good thing. Then why does this look like a note someone would pass in 3rd grade? The paper isn't even big enough for me to write a goodbye letter to my family. After a while, Ben surmised that humans just wouldn't be able to understand the artistic sense of whatever god or demon created this system. Instead of pondering the imponderable, he sought more information about the item. Divine Pickup Line, consumable fine, X1 use on any woman to quickly raise her attraction to you by a significant amount. Ben's breathing became heavy. This is it. He spotted a glimmer of light up above, a possibility of escaping the deep crater he was stuck in. This little scrap of paper could be his life-saving rope. Krieg. The door opened, and a teenage boy that Ben had never seen entered the dorm room. The boy's eyebrows raised when he saw that Ben was already inside. He put his luggage down, straightened his posture, and approached Ben in a formal manner for a handshake. Not wanting to be disrespectful, Ben stood up and shook hands with him. Hello, I take it you are Benjamin. I'm Farik from India and we will be roommates from now on. It is a pleasure to meet you. I did not expect to share a room with an established entrepreneur, which is my great honor. Ben's death sentence had distracted him to the point that he forgot his roommate was coming today. Yet, there was one part of what Farik said that confused him. Entrepreneur, Ben asked, squinting. Farik's back became even straighter. I have seen the large number of orders at our front door. I am very impressed. It is only the first day and yet you've started a business already. What is the business model? A Mexican delivery food service. He stared at Ben as if looking at a mentor. Farik was in the business program, so he needed to learn from real-world startups like this if he wanted to launch his own company in the future. Ben's face was gloomier than a necromancer's Facebook page. It's nothing great like that, that's a misunderstanding. Farik nodded over and over in appreciation. Modesty is a virtue. Good, good. I can see that I will learn much from you and am looking forward to becoming friends. Friends? To Ben, that word was like an idiom in a foreign language. He knew the translation, but he didn't understand the true meaning. When was the last time I had a friend outside of chat rooms? Ben could see that Farik was sincere and it improved his mood. It's my first day and I've already made a friend. He found hope for the future. That's right, this is the beginning of my wonderful future. I may have made many mistakes in the past, but I'm still young and have infinite possibilities ahead of me. Who's to say I can't accomplish great things? It was the spring of his youth. 29 days and 23 hours remaining until eradication. Oh my God, Debbie Downer is living in my head. I didn't need to hear that just now. Would you like to turn off the hourly alarm? It seems like the system also responds to thoughts. Yes, F***seeking turn it off. It's not like I'll soon forget the approach of my impending death. His mental ramblings were interrupted by the sound of a wild animal. Growl. Ben looked down at his stomach and realized he hadn't eaten all day. He took the train in the morning, then was busy with registering and organizing his dorm room all day. Having already washed off the brown waste that covered him earlier, he decided it was a good time to go downstairs and try out the dorm cafeteria. It was getting late, so he hoped it hadn't closed yet. Ben invited Farik, who couldn't go because he had to contact his family and unpack, so Ben went alone. As Ben passed through the halls, his face brightened up a little because someone had taken down the meme posters of him. I guess there are good people in the world. He used the elevator to reach the ground floor and walked toward the cafeteria. As he passed the entrance, someone next to him yelled, "Hey, Burrito King." Ben looked over and found Tyler, one of the people who put up those posters of him everywhere. Ben's mood dropped like a stone again. He thought he'd left his dark past of bullying behind, but it didn't even take a day for people to push him down, burying him in the same lightless hole. "You still taking orders?" Tyler and another student laughed in Ben's face as they got drinks from the vending machine. Ben wanted to stand up for himself, but he wasn't a fighter. He made his stand once when he was younger. That's when he learned how much crueler reality was than the movies. The only result of his bravery was a beating from a bully that put him in bed for 2 weeks. Since then, he always kept his head down, having understood that walking in shame was better than lying down in it. As Ben prepared to walk away, he caught a powerful scent of floral perfume exuding from behind him. When he turned around, it only took an instant, but what he saw mesmerized him. Standing there was a gorgeous girl. She had an exotic Mediterranean face like a femme fatale from a James Bond movie. Olive skin complemented her neck-length dark hair, which waved when she moved like ocean currents under dim moonlight. She was talking on the phone and hadn't noticed Ben drooling yet. Ben gulped, "What a beauties." "Sneer, don't even dream about it, you scrub," Tyler said when he saw Ben gazing at the girl, lost in a trance. Ben clenched his fists, shivering. "I can't even daydream in peace." With heavy breathing, he took out the consumable divine pickup line from his pocket and stared at it for a long time. Was this the moment? He hadn't seen such a beautiful girl since arriving in Manhattan, but this was his life he was playing with. Failure meant probable death. His heartbeat sped up as he grasped the realization that this was the most important decision he'd ever made. One chance, that's all he had. "Should I use it now?" "Stop staring, freak. You're a disgusting worm to girls like her," Tyler insulted Ben as he stepped forward to stand at Ben's side and smirked. "That's Penelope. You couldn't get her to talk to you to save your life, so stop looking before you embarrass yourself." Ben gritted his teeth. This girl was way out of his league, but why did bastards like this always have to rub it in his face? Ben was reaching his breaking point. He came all the way to New York City hoping to start a new life, only to be treated like trash and told he would die in 1 month if he didn't do the impossible. He couldn't take it anymore. "I couldn't get her to talk to me to save my life. Even if that was true before, things can change." He gripped the divine pickup line in his hand, feeling the dry paper rub against his skin. "Tyler's right about one thing, this is to save my life, screw it." Ben planned to wait for a perfect opportunity, to find a pretty girl somewhere to use the divine line on, but the system said it would work on any woman, so she might as well be a top beauty. He turned to Tyler. "You said I couldn't get her to even talk to me, then watch." Tyler was taken aback by this outburst, but soon sneered. This should be funny. Ben ignored him. When Penelope got off the phone call, he took a deep breath, squeezed the paper in his palm, and walked into the flames. Annihilation or rebirth. "Gulp, excuse me, Mimus," he stuttered. Tyler and his buddy were already pointing at him and chuckling, getting ready to emasculate Ben once Penelope rejected him. They were certain that any moment now, he would be humiliated in front of the entire cafeteria. Penelope hadn't snubbed Ben right away, but it wasn't a good thing. It was only because she didn't hear him. She was still texting on her phone. "Miss," Ben spoke louder. "Ah?" Penelope jumped back startled. She held her phone to her chest in a defensive posture as she glanced at Ben like he was about to assault her. Tyler was bent over now, laughing at Ben like he was a sideshow clown. "This is not going well." Ben felt his heart leap up his throat. His hands were shaking as he raised the paper to his face and read from it. "F***ck my life." He made a terrible miscalculation. The text was tiny, so he hadn't studied it in detail during the short time before Farik's entrance. Now he saw that it was complete gibberish. It didn't resemble English or any language he'd heard of. "What is this garbage?" he tried to read from it, "Druhin ut." Out of nowhere, Ben's pupils dilated and his body froze. What's happening? He could still think but couldn't move or control anything. He was a statue, or so he thought. Suddenly, Ben stretched his neck and took a step towards Penelope, but this wasn't the real Ben at all. His body moved on its own. "I've been possessed." The Ben in the cafeteria was walking, being controlled like a video game character. Ben viewed everything from his eyes as usual, but someone or something commanded his body. He felt his eyes relax and his lips stretch, forming a casual smile, an expression almost like confidence. "Miss, that's the textbook for macroeconomics, isn't it?" Ben pointed to a book under Penelope's arm. Penelope's eyes widened, glimmering in surprise. Ben was even more shocked. It wasn't because he somehow knew about the textbook, but because he was speaking a foreign language. The Ben watching from inside only spoke English. How was his body able to converse in another language so fluently? Even though the real Ben couldn't say a word of it himself, at this moment, he could still somehow understand everything, and also recognize that it was Greek. Tyler and his friend had their eyes bulge out. They couldn't believe this short fatty spoke a rare foreign language so well. After a slight surprise, Penelope responded in Greek, "It is." Ben shook his head and sighed, "Too bad. If you're taking that class, then you've missed a huge opportunity for the easiest perfect grade." Then he turned around and prepared to walk away. The real Ben went crazy. "What are you doing, bastard? Turn back around and woo her off her feet. You stole Daddy's body, so at least give me a good show." "Wait," Penelope shouted. Ben felt as his lips stretched wider into an expectant smile. He turned around. "What did you mean by that?" Penelope's attention was captured. "That book is last year's edition. There's a new edition with an extra section that had only been available to professors before questions and answers. The professors here use that section to create their exams. If you had it then, it would be like having the tests in advance." Penelope's eyebrows arched upwards. At the bookstore they said this was the latest edition though. "The new edition will be available in a few days as an online-only version at the publisher's website." Penelope's eyes shined. She became excited. Everyone knew how difficult the classes at this university were. Her English was only intermediate, so studying would be even harder for her. Having the tests beforehand would be a godsend. Still, there was a concern in the back of her mind. Isn't that cheating? Ben smirked. "It's not cheating if you don't get caught." Then he turned and strolled away again. "Don't play with me, get your ass back there and finish the job." Real Ben was fuming. He couldn't handle this back and forth pace. When Penelope saw Ben leaving, she panicked. She had been nervous before coming to the USA because she didn't know anyone here. She was an unfamiliar girl in a foreign country with no friends, no fellow students to speak Greek with. Now this guy came out of nowhere and spoke her language. He even knew these hidden tips about school and seemed so aloof. She couldn't let him go like that. This boy was too intriguing. "Ah, wait a second." This time Penelope ran to him with an eager smile on her face and flushed cheeks. Tyler's jaw dropped. Did this beauty chase after the Burrito King? He couldn't believe it. A few others in the cafeteria also rubbed their eyes to make sure they weren't seeing things. Penelope asked him, "Can I have your number?" At this moment, Ben felt like his brain had rebooted. He was back in the driver's seat. It's too bad the timing was awful since he was at a total loss for what to do. "No, bring Casanova back," he cried, but there was no use. The Greek-speaking, charming alter ego was nowhere to be found. "Thamu dosais loipon ton arithmosu." Penelope looked at him with expectant eyes. "OSH*T. No wait, she asked for my number before. Okay, I can do that much." Keeping his mouth shut, Ben took out his phone and showed her his number on the screen. After he confirmed she watched her save him as a contact, he did an about-face and walked out of the cafeteria. Having seen everything, it was now Tyler's turn to be a statue, standing there gawking like a fool. He and his friend were speechless. On Ben's way out, he glared at them. "You said Daddy couldn't get her to talk to me. I didn't have to. She ran over and did it herself. She even asked for my number. Could you do that?" "No, never underestimate my colorful student life, bastard." Ben left the lunchroom in the highest spirits. That was the first time he'd spoken to a girl and received such a warm reaction. So what if it was only his body and some charm demon doing the talking? That's called having a stunt double. If Hollywood stars could do it, why couldn't he? Then mid-step he halted. In his excited state, Ben had left the cafeteria. There was only one problem: he forgot to eat. Should I go back? No way, too embarrassing. It was instant noodles for dinner. 5 days later. Why hasn't she called? Ben was sitting on his bed with his face buried in his hands. He thought he made it out of the woods. He thought he had a chance to live, but he discovered he was too naive. That divine line was actually a death sentence. He was tricked into a sense of complacency. Ben figured since the line went well, everything would work out with Penelope. Instead, death approached closer and closer like a runaway train. Over the past week, he'd started class. The first couple of days were fine. He waited for Penelope to call while focusing on his studies. Then with every following day, he lost more and more sleep as reality sank in. His eyes became black as he grew pale and carried a nervous sweat at all times. His face was that of a ghoul. Though what could you expect from someone on death row? She hadn't called and he was out of moves. There were no PUA points left and was helpless without them. He wasn't charming. He didn't speak Greek. When talking to a girl, he could barely speak English. It's the end. What should I do? I have no cheats from the pickup artist system. How the hell am I supposed to become a pickup artist? Drowned by depression, Ben lied down in his bed. A few moments later, he shot right back up. Wait, pickup artist. That's not a term invented by the system. That's a real thing. Though I laughed in his face, didn't my idiot cousin Antonio call himself a pickup artist the last time we spoke? Ben stood up and paced around the room. It's ridiculous to depend on that fool, but what other option do I have? Ben picked up his phone and called his cousin. Ring rings. Yo cuz, what's up? Antonio answered. Antonio, you have to help me. His cousin was startled. What's the matter? Did you get kidnapped? Worse, listen, I have to meet you. Where are you? Ben received Antonio's location, grabbed his Metro card and ran out of the dorm. Inside a Starbucks in Midtown, the front door shot open. Someone entered at such speed that the employees thought it was the cartoon Road Runner. They were relieved when they saw it was a short teenager, then became disturbed again when they saw his brown hair. It was styled in an atrocious huge perm. They only relaxed once they remembered that New York was filled with all kinds of strange characters. Ben searched the cafe before running to a back table. There sat a young man with tanned sand-colored skin and a shaved head. He was skinny and of average height but gazed around the room with unbridled arrogance, like he was a young noble from an ancient family. Meanwhile, he drank water because he didn't want to spend $2 on a coffee. Upon reaching the table, Ben grabbed his hands. Antonio, I need your help. Cuz, calm down first, tell me what happened. Ben wasn't sure what to say. Should I tell him a voice popped into my head and is forcing me to seduce women? He'll have me committed. He needed to come with something else, so he took a few seconds to gather his thoughts. It's like this, I must seduce women. Ben couldn't think of a good reason, so he skipped the reason instead. Antonio inspected him. Ben's eyes were bloodshot, redder than the devil's butt cheeks. He was sweating buckets, had shaking hands, and panted uncontrollably. Antonio squinted his eyes, then nodded in understanding. So this is the legendary thirst. Antonio believed Ben was going VIRGIN crazy. Okay, I understand. Ben followed up, you told me you know a master pickup artist, right? I need to meet him. Whoa, slow down cuz. You should start slow, so let me show you the ropes first. You're sounding like Icarus and **T. I don't have time to play in the kiddie pool. I need to talk to a true master right away. Ben wasn't saying Antonio was a waste, he was only thinking it. Antonio looked at this cousin of his, short, chubby, stupid clothes, even stupider hair. This will take massive work. Well, that guy might appreciate a hopeless case like this. He made a decision. Okay, hold on, I'll make the call. He got up and went outside, calling this acquaintance. A few minutes later, Antonio returned and sat down. Ben stared at him like he was a doctor with news on his mother's surgery results. He said he'll meet you on one condition. Say it. Antonio didn't want to say it. Cough, we ***. He only managed to mumble it. What? Speak up. Antonio swallowed. He said you have to wear a thong. What? What? Ben double-checked. A thong, wear one if you want to meet him. Is this guy a master pickup artist or a gay ***pissed? Antonio wasn't sure how to justify it either. Look, he said he needs to test the bravery of any prospective student. If you don't have the courage to wear a thong, then you don't have what it takes and it would be a waste of time meeting you. That's what he said. Ben clenched his jaw as he flushed his dignity down the toilet. Screw it. If he failed, they'd be putting him in a casket. They could bury him in a thong for all he cared. At least the funeral would be memorable. Damn it, fine, I'll wear it. The two of them walked over to a cheap department store. Ben entered and did some retail therapy that might lead to needing actual therapy. A store employee passed and saw Ben browsing through the female underwear section. He must be browsing for a gift for his girlfriend, she guessed as she approached him to offer help. After one step, she stopped dead in her tracks. She watched Ben holding various thongs against his waist, trying to guess his size. It was clear now, the thong was for him. Ben noticed her presence and they locked eyes. A second later, they both turned around and walked in opposite directions. Ding dong ***. Ben and Antonio were at the front door of a two-story house in Brooklyn. A few moments after ringing the doorbell, a man opened the door. He was 30-ish and tall with an imposing heavyset frame, but what was most striking was his outfit. It was epic. He wore a curved purple pimp hat capped by a red feather. It partnered with his chin-strap beard to frame his thick face and eyebrows. With a purple bathrobe to match, he gave off the impression of a cartoon emperor from a Sesame Street character's deluded nightmare. What have I got myself into? Ben wondered. What's the password? The man queried. Antonio and Ben glanced at each other in confusion. The big man took out his phone and played a song. I like it when the beat goes. Baby, make your booty go, oh. Baby, I know you want to show. That song. It was a thong song by Cisco. Ben's face turned green. He had to summon the strength of his ancestors to avoid walking away. He gritted his teeth in determination. Dead men didn't have the luxury to care about self-respect. Besides what self-respect, he was already wearing the damn thing. Ben pulled the top of his pants down a bit to flash the shiny fabric. The big man nodded as his eyes showed appreciation. You're qualified, come in. Because of a thong, am I qualified, am I really? Ben cursed this perverted bastard. As Ben and Antonio entered the house, a woman's shout came from above. Eugene, who is it? Shut up, Ma, I've got guests. What? Ben felt the thong's silky texture brushing against his legs as he walked. He made a decision. With this shame haunting his soul, if it still didn't work out, forget waiting a month, he would end it tonight. The three sat down on sofas in a baziamianti with fish tanks everywhere. Welcome to my underwater man cave, the large man said. Is that a man cave for fish? WTF. I suppose it is a cave technically because it's his mom's baziamianti. Ben felt like crying. This was his savior. I haven't introduced myself, they call me Beluga. Because you're a big guy, Ben asked. No, because beluga caviar is the rarest and most expensive, Beluga responded with a prideful expression. Yay, I'm not sure that's why they call you that though, Ben thought. At this moment, Beluga crossed his legs. By coincidence, Ben noticed he was also wearing a thong. What? An issue plagued Ben's mind. He forced me to wear one. Now having seen he's in a thong himself, should I feel better or worse? What? Ben shook his head. What's with the thong thing? You don't know, chicks like it. You've got to be open-minded and willing to take risks in this game. Ben wasn't sure if he was serious. I'm not sure about that. Regardless, in this case, I prefer my mind nice and closed. Beluga tried to make Ben feel welcome. Ben, right? Antonio has told me all about you. He asked me to invite you here to my home. Here we are. Look around you. I know it's hard to believe that you've been granted the opportunity in your life to run into a peak specimen like me. Well, I'm here to tell you it's real. One day this could be your future. Ben looked around at the dark dump filled with fish tanks. Death was starting to sound not that bad to Ben. Ben narrowed his eyes. I'm having trouble believing this guy. This is a master pickup artist. Let me test him first. Beluga, you're a master pickup artist, right? Ben inquired. Certified, Beluga responded. What? Ben didn't understand what that meant, but he continued. Then I have this problem with this girl. Ben told Beluga about the situation with Penelope. He needed to understand why she hadn't contacted him. Beluga laughed. The reason for your problem is simple. It's because you gave your number to a pretty girl. What? Ben squinted in confusion. I don't understand. Beluga clarified. Look, the cheapest thing to attractive females is male attention. They're surrounded by it, hounded. Attractive females, especially ones in crowded places like universities, have an infinite amount of options. They'll never call you. They're too busy getting attention from the next guy. It doesn't matter how well your meeting went because attention is its own reward for females. It gives them a kick of dopamine. That's why you can't ever give your number if there's an alternative. You have to get her number. Besides, you failed her sh*T test. sh*T test, Ben confirmed. Beluga answered him. sh*T test is a female's way of finding out if you're qualified to date her. She wants to see if you have what it takes. Some tests they throw out consciously, some subconsciously. You'll know you failed one when she walks away. When that girl asked you for your number, that was a subtle sh*T test. She wanted to see if you knew enough to flip it and get her number. You showed you didn't. Beluga continued, you failed that test. As for how serious that mistake was, it depends on the test and the female. In this case it wasn't fatal, but I doubt she'll be calling you. These new concepts intrigued Ben, so the tests are to see if you have what it takes. What does it take? Beluga laughed, you've got to push the right buttons. sh*T tests are only one part of the puzzle. What does it take? Knowledge of how females think, confidence, charm, experience, and more. To put it in one word, it takes game. Game? Ben recognized the word but didn't understand the meaning in this scenario. Game, that's how we in the pickup artist community refer to skill at interacting with females. They use the term too when they say you've got game. They know the truth, some of them won't admit it though. The term game is meaningful. This dance between men and women, it's a lot like a game. In fact, if the only thing you changed was to view your exchanges with females as a game, you'd already be far ahead of most men. Beluga smiled. Ben was deep in thought, trying to digest everything. I suppose it shouldn't be hard. After all, I have a game-like pickup artist system in my head. Beluga then leaned in. He stared deep into Ben's eyes with a stern expression. Remember this, Benjamin, beware of the sh*T tests. Always, I don't care if you've been married 40 years. Watch out for them even then. If not, they'll be the death of you, beware. Ben swallowed. Beluga made them sound like ghosts or demons. Don't worry, I'm already afraid. Beluga calmed down. Good. With that out of the way, we can discuss the ultimate thing you came here to learn. Beluga stood up and looked at Ben. His tone became mysterious. Mastering the art of seduction. Beluga was giving Ben his first lecture. Benjamin, I'll tell you this, mastering the art of seduction is a long pursuit, but it isn't as hard as you think to get started. Okay, lesson 1, stand up and repeat after me. I'm the best looking and most charming man you've ever seen. Ben was hesitant but followed his instructions. I'm the best Lou. No, say it to me, Beluga interrupted. What? Ben tried again. You're the best looking and most charming man I've ever seen. Beluga looked into a mirror he had hanging on the wall to his side. I know, okay good, you've got potential. What? Ben leaned over to Antonio and whispered, some of the stuff he said was interesting, but is this guy serious? Or is he only fishing for compliments? Antonio replied with confidence, trust me, he's no joke. He's a legend in our community. His rep on the forums is top tier. Ben's eyebrows knitted. Did he say forums? Is this an epic 4chan troll? I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound reliable at all. When Beluga finished admiring his reflection, he continued speaking. Benjamin, we're having a nice banter here, but you can't just walk in here and become my disciple. You need to prove yourself first. Only the bravest of men are qualified to become true pickup artists. I need you to show me you're willing to do what it takes. Benjamin glanced at him. Was wearing a thong not enough? Beluga answered, no, that was my gift to you, a freestyle tip. Next comes the proper test in the field. Ben thought, keep your damn gifts next time. Is he going to make me wear the thong in public? Ben wasn't excited about this test, but decided to see what Beluga proposed first. The three went to a public shopping mall nearby. Being midday, it was loaded with people. They were near the food court, which had many cafes and people sitting down eating. Ben looked around. There were many women in the vicinity. As people passed them, some would point at Beluga. It wasn't a surprise. He hadn't changed at all. He wore his purple pimp hat and bathrobe with pride. Ben wanted to run far away from him, but he was also wearing a thong underneath, so he wasn't holding the moral high ground either. Beluga put his hand on Ben's shoulder. Okay, here's what you'll do. You see that female sitting down, approach her and say this. He gave Ben his version of a divine line. Ben's eyes widened in shock. Are you serious? Beluga gazed into his eyes. I've never told a joke in my life. What? Ben gulped. He gazed at the woman Beluga told him to approach as his heart sped up and his hands became clammy. It wasn't the line that made him nervous. It was the idea of approaching a woman. You're worried, right? Afraid? Beluga asked. Ben hesitated but nodded. Beluga said, look, think of it this way. What's the worst that can happen? Say you open her and she rejects you. Then you'll be in the same place you are right now. Isn't that the worst case scenario? Why should you care about that? Why should that stop you? Ben blinked a few times while processing the information, but Beluga interrupted him. No buts, you know why you're scared. It's because your body is still programmed from the caveman days. Human society has advanced, but our bodies have lagged behind. It's not surprising. It takes thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years for significant evolution to occur. In caveman times, if you approached a female, you may have had to fight some man to the death for the opportunity to mate with her. Now, nothing. There's no such negative consequence. Beluga continued. We live in a country full of police where even fighting can get you sent to jail and sued. People are civil. There's nothing to be afraid of, yet your body is still hardwired to be nervous about an impending deathmatch against a caveman. That's why despite your mind knowing you have nothing to lose, your body is resisting. These words were a shock to Ben's mind. Is that true? Why am I so nervous? He stood there for a minute as he visualized what could happen if he approached the woman and failed. A while later, he realized there wasn't anything that bad. Most likely she would say no and that was it. He's right. Ben understood the truth and his nerves eased a little. He looked down and clenched his fists. So what if she rejected him? Hasn't he been getting rejected by everyone his entire life? Exhaled. When Ben looked up, his eyes changed. They were filled with determination. He took a deep breath, glanced at the woman, and walked towards her. Excuse me, miss. The woman was surprised an unknown teenager was speaking to her, but was cordial in her reply. Yes. Ben recalled the line Beluga gave him. He didn't know if it would work, but Antonio said Beluga was a legendary master. He chose to trust him for now. Still, his nerves were shaking and he had to calm himself down. You can do this. Remember, there's nothing to lose. What's the worst that can happen? She'll say no and you'll walk away. No big deal. The woman observed Ben. Here was a nice boy with an honest face. He seemed like a dependable student, the future of America. Wearing his sincere expression, Ben gazed at the woman. He radiated righteousness. With bright eyes and a clear heart, he told her his best line. I love your tits. What? Ben walked back to Beluga with a red palm print on his face. Ben wasn't feeling great, but Antonio and Beluga encouraged him. They said that in the beginning, it was normal to be rejected, even necessary. Ben thought about it. Whatever, it's only a palm print, it'll come off. Even the shame will wash off with time. He wasn't ready to quit. Beluga pointed out another woman and Ben decided he would try again. He approached her. Excuse me, miss. Oh, hello, yes. Ben considered how to improve. Beluga said I need to show more sincerity, right? Sincerity. He knew what to do. I want to marry your tits. Ben walked back to Beluga and Antonio, this time with coffee all over his face. Ben thought about the outcome. Beluga said improvement comes as you collect many approaches, adjusting your method by learning from better results. But was that a better or worse result? He pondered, is it better to get slapped or get coffee in the face? What? Ben weighed both sides of the argument. On one hand, the last woman was willing to waste the coffee she spent money on to express her hatred. On the other hand, there's a tiny chance she thought I looked thirsty. Ben felt it was important to look for small positives in bleak situations. Little by little, he was developing an optimistic outlook. So what if a psychologist would label it delusional? What do they know? They don't approach women. Their clients come to them. He approached more women using the previous lines or modifying them to try something different. Each time he'd return to Beluga with a new gift. After the last one, onion rings in his hair, Ben became frustrated. Damn, what use is this? There's no way I can get any good result from saying these things. Beluga snorted. Is that right? Check this. I'll use the same line I gave you and get a good result. Watch and learn. Beluga approached a woman and said the line. She frowned. Several seconds later, she got up and left. Beluga watched her walk away as he nodded to himself. Then he turned around and swaggered back to Ben and Antonio with a triumphant smile. Did you see that? Ben responded, yeah, she just walked away. Beluga's eyes glimmered, satisfied with Ben's answer. Good, you understand. What the F***ck do I understand? Ben was confused. Beluga saw Ben still hadn't grasped it, so he clarified. That was a good result. What? Beluga continued. Unlike you, she didn't hit me, she just walked away. That's charm, Beluga said with a raised chin. What? I think it's because you look like an insane person though. Ben had different ideas, he sighed. Whatever, I have nothing to lose, let's keep at it. Ben continued to approach women. After the 10th one, something happened. User has unlocked achievement system. Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement. Newbie opener common, open 10 women. Distributing reward, PUA points plus 100. Challenge system unlocked. User will receive a new challenge every week. If a challenge is completed, the challenge for the following week will unlock early. Weekly challenge, it's a numbers game, open 100 women. Reward stat point random x1. Completion status 10-100. Ben started panting. Yes, he screamed in the middle of the mall. Beluga and Antonio glanced at him, wondering if he was having a breakdown. This is it, I found my way out. The system appeared again at last. Ben saw hope. He laughed off his outburst, reassuring Antonio and Beluga that he was only hit by a wave of motivation. Eager for more points, he wanted to approach more women. An even thirstier Ben was unleashed on the mall. With madness and excitement in his eyes, he fired openers at women like a machine gun. His speaking tone became faster and more energetic. He figured being more high energy might improve his outcomes. The women had a different perspective. A tweaker meth head was coming at them. After a while, Ben heard a sound he had prayed for in his dreams. Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement. Shameless assault victim uncommon, get assaulted by 3 women in 1 day. Distributing reward, PUA points plus 200. Hot coffee dripped down Ben's face as he laughed like a crazy person. You can even receive points for that. Amazing. This was the path to becoming a masochist. 150 more points and I can buy another low-level mystery box. Ben was becoming addicted to this game, another helpless victim of microtransactions. All of a sudden, Ben heard another system sound and became even more ecstatic. Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement. Fugitive of love, fine, get reported by 3 unknown women in 1 day for harassment. The smile on Ben's face froze. This is bad. Distributing reward, PUA points plus 500. Never mind, way to go Ben, history is told by the winners. To Ben, points were king, points were God. Ben was back in his dorm laughing like a crazy person. 800 points. He earned 800 points just from getting rejected. If it allowed him to live, he didn't mind getting rejected 1,000 times. Back at the mall, Beluga had commended Ben's efforts and they agreed to meet again next weekend. Antonio also said he would come. Still, time was running out for Ben to complete his system's death mission. Before meeting them, he needed to make the most of every day. He checked his completion status for his weekly challenge to open 100 women. Completion status 15-100. Still a long way to go. I can raise that myself during the week though. First things first, I should use these points. Ben opened the store and saw that, like before, only the low-level mystery box was available for 500. He didn't have a choice, so he bought one. A red box appeared in front of him. Without hesitation, he opened it, illuminating the room. When the light dissipated, a flat green card was lying in Ben's lap. He picked it up. Low-level stat growth multiplier, consumable, fine looks, X1. What's this do? The low-level stat growth multiplier can be activated to provide a growth boost in a particular stat for 1 week. During that period, activities that develop that stat will provide 10x the results. The item will also increase the user's motivation to perform those activities, as well as efficiency and recovery while doing so. This item is locked to the look stat. Amazing, so if I take a class or train in some activity, I'll get 10 weeks of results in only 1. Then he realized something more amazing. Low level, so higher levels would have even bigger boosts, Ben gasped. His mind raced in excitement. Okay, that's too far off in the future. I need to survive this month first. Taking a closer glance at the item's description, he considered what activities he could do to develop his looks. As he looked down at his chubby gut, the best answer was obvious. This was his a heaven-sent opportunity to improve his body. Ben couldn't wait any longer and activated the low-level stat growth multiplier. At that moment, a wave of motivation hit him. It was like he had a strong itch to work out or improve his appearance somehow. He felt bad sitting there not doing anything. Ben was also impatient to see what results the 10x multiplier would give, so he changed into casual wear and headed to the university gym that was free for students. When Ben was in high school, his parents tried to motivate him to get in shape many times, but it never stuck. When he played sports in school, he would get bullied, so he avoided them. Working out and dieting were too difficult. If his parents asked him to diet, the idea's nice, but he was hungry. Did they want him to starve? They wanted him to lift weights. Easier said than done. That *T is heavy. As Ben walked into the gym, his feelings differed completely from the last time. He used to have a strong sense that he didn't belong. Now, the powerful motivation from the stat growth multiplier overwhelmed him. He needed to make gains. He felt like a gym addict. Ben learned how to access the facilities and use the gym lockers. Then he entered the weight room. He didn't know much about working out, but using cardio and weightlifting machines wasn't too complicated. His parents had paid for a personal trainer for him once who had taught him a basic program. Ben still remembered it, so he hit the machines and broke a sweat. His current training intensity was unimaginable for the old him. Get results, push harder, faster. An hour later, Ben was covered in sweat and out of breath. He wanted to work out more, but his body wasn't in good enough shape to handle it. His plan was to increase his training load as the week progressed. Right now, he had to rest and recover. As Ben walked out of the gym, he ran into an acquaintance. He frowned as he watched Tyler enter with several friends. "Is that Burrito King?" Tyler and his group laughed. Ben frowned but knew it was a waste of time talking to bullies, so he tried to walk past them. Tyler moved to block his path. "You must have mistaken this place for the cafeteria. You're in the wrong spot. This is the gym. It's not a place for couch potato wastes like you." Tyler and his friends laughed. Ben snorted. Tyler was one to talk. Ben was fat, but Tyler wasn't skinny either. Although he seemed popular and was better looking than Ben, he wasn't an athlete himself. Ben thought about his stat growth multiplier and decided to teach this guy a lesson. "Is that right? So you're saying I'm wasting my time here?" Tyler looked at him, chuckling. Yeah, that's exactly it." Ben smirked. "Tell you what, how about we make a bet?" Tyler was silent. He wasn't sure where Ben was going with this. Ben explained, "1 week from now, whichever one of us is in worse shape has to call the other daddy for a year." Tyler looked at his friends and they all broke out into mad laughter. "Is he serious? This fat ass worked out one day and thinks he'll be an athlete. I can't actually." Ben was too fat. Even if he lost 10 pounds, he would still be chubbier than Tyler. He could start pumping steroids and run a marathon right now, and he still wouldn't win that bet in 1 week. Even liposuction wouldn't work. What was he expecting to achieve in such a short time? "Okay, I like that idea. You're on Burrito King," Tyler agreed, snickering at Ben's ridiculous proposal. It would be a good chance to embarrass him later. Ben smiled and walked past them to leave. "I'm looking forward to adopting a cute new foster son." As Ben left, he thought about his next mystery box. He hoped it would have an item that worked on MILFs so he could meet Tyler's mom and become his official stepdad. Ben stared into the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the person looking back. Holy *T. He wasn't a fatty anymore. In only 1 week, all the fat came off. What's more is his muscles were chiseled. He was lean, not huge like a bodybuilder, but he looked like an athlete. Ben had gone to the gym every day. Yesterday, he trained for 3 hours before becoming exhausted. These were the inevitable results from training like an animal. This is what 10 weeks of hard work in the gym could do. Ben felt lucky the stat multiplier was for looks and not another stat. If it was for knowledge or communication, it would be difficult to say if he could make a significant leap. After all, people study for years to get entry-level degrees. Meanwhile, 10 weeks in the gym is enough time to make a total physical transformation. His face also appeared somewhat more attractive. Although it was only average, at least he was part of the single chin club now. Too bad he couldn't do anything about his height. No doubt his style could use a lot of work too. Ben checked his stats. He had received several alerts before. Looks 5, you're short and have idiotic hair. Your body is decent though, so targeting blind women is an option. Just don't let them touch your hair. Ben started flexing in the mirror. Yes, blind women will do just fine. Charisma 0, this is still at leper level. I need to take a leadership class. Social status 2, students are our future. Too bad we live in the present. Seduction skills 0, consider blow-up dolls. I can't afford one. Knowledge 4, entry-level student. Manliness 3, congratulations, both balls have dropped. Ben was about to celebrate that he also gained 2 points in manliness, but then he read that damn message. Still, this was a good thing. After asking the system, he learned his physical transformation only increased his manliness by 1 point. The act of going to the gym every day got him the other point. Manliness was a stat that increased by doing things the system considered manly, and some of those activities needed to be done on a regular basis. As for a list of what those were, sorry. This system wasn't nice enough to give him such a thing. Communication 3. You can speak. With the eloquence of a child. Are you a child, a cute little baby? No, why not? Snort, I'm a big boy. Personal talent 2. Waist level. While reading the status screen was as soul-crushing as ever, Ben still felt great about his growth. He saw the potential in the system because he gained 5 stat points in a week. If he kept gaining stat points at this rate, wouldn't he one day be strong, tall, and handsome like Batman? Even if he couldn't become tall, then at least Wolverine. As long as he survived this month, this system would be the key to his future. Besides the stats, Ben had other gains too. Weekly challenge, it's a numbers game, open 100 women. Reward stat point random x1. Completion status, 87-100. Ben had been busy. Between school and working out, he went to crowded places in Manhattan and approached women to progress in the weekly challenge. He even had some results. Although they rejected him every time, he noticed that as the days progressed, the responses became not as bad. In the last couple of days, he even almost didn't receive slaps or drinks to the face. Not many slaps or drinks at all. Only a few times. Towards the end, one girl even laughed like it was a joke. When she realized Ben was serious, it became even weirder, but it was a good beginning. The reason for the better responses was obvious. His looks were improving. These girls only care about looks, thought the man approaching women, telling them he loved their tits. It was unfortunate that Ben hadn't unlocked any new achievements, but that wasn't something he could control. PUA points 350. He had 350 points, but still needed another 150 to use them. After reviewing his progress, Ben was pumped up. He decided to go to the gym. Even though his multiplier had expired, he tasted the sweet gains and wanted more even if it took much longer. He also knew that getting fit didn't mean he would stay that way if he did nothing. A good body still needed maintenance. Besides, Ben's new fitness goals were still far away. Training was impossible for him before. Now he enjoyed it. The thing with habits is they're hard to form but much easier to maintain once you go through the challenging early phase. Ben was lucky to have a stat growth multiplier for that. Ben was in the gym training on a weight machine. He finished his set of exercises when he heard the laughter of several people at the entrance. He turned to see it was Tyler and one of his friends. They had dark bags under their eyes, taking unsteady steps as if half asleep. Ben could tell they had been partying and were hungover from the night before. In fact, there was a high chance they were only here to detox in the sauna. When Ben got a closer look at Tyler though, his eyebrows rose. Tyler wasn't any skinnier. No, he was even fatter. Since they made the bet, Ben hadn't seen Tyler in the gym even once and now knew why. It was freshman week. Every year at this time, the first-year students had many parties and it was clear Tyler had indulged too much. Ben glanced at Tyler's gut as he staggered around the gym like a zombie. Then Ben looked at his own muscular arms. He squeezed his biceps and realized that things were different now. He wasn't the weak one anymore. Ben smirked and walked over to Tyler, blocking his path as Tyler did to him last week. Tyler, it's time to check the results. This sudden intrusion surprised Tyler. He squinted at Ben. The hair looked a bit familiar, but he didn't recognize this short, athletic guy. Hooray you. Who am I? It took Ben a few seconds to understand that Tyler didn't recognize him. Then Ben's grin grew wider. I'm your daddy, bish. What the F***ck did you just say? Tyler grew furious. Some random guy was insulting him out of nowhere. The truth is you were a mistake. Your birth certificate was an apology letter from the condom factory. Tyler's face turned red with embarrassment and anger. Ben might have been reserved, but he was damn good at cursing. Even the system praised his video game trash talking when it first described his communication stat. At least, that's how he saw it. Ben looked at Tyler's bulging stomach. From the looks of it, you'll be needing another birth certificate. 2. Tyler's friend spit out his Gatorade on some girl running on a nearby treadmill. He laughed uncontrollably and the scene descended into chaos. Tyler almost fumed from his ears. His arm shook as he pointed at Ben while searching for a comeback. Ben continued gazing at Tyler's midsection. Not pregnant, then you'll be needing a girth certificate. Bam! A guy broke into laughter while sprinting on a treadmill and got flung off. Most of the gym-goers nearby exploded into laughter, staring at Tyler. Tyler couldn't hold back anymore. He lunged at Ben and swung a haymaker. Despite Ben not having fought in many years, he found it too easy to dodge this fat, slow, hungover slob. He was already short, so he sidestepped it. Pulled by the momentum of his wild swing, Tyler stumbled forward until crashing headfirst into a rack of weights. One of the heavier weights fell onto his foot. Ben glanced at Tyler's friend who was still recovering from his laughter. He put his hands up in a nonchalant manner, showing no intention of joining the scuffle. It wasn't too surprising. Everyone here only knew each other for under 2 weeks, so no one was close yet. Ben walked up to Tyler, who was still on the ground holding his foot. Tyler, say it, who's your daddy? Tyler glimpsed up at Ben. That hair, at last he realized Ben's identity, it's you. Good answer. Tyler wanted to cough blood. Ben never expected Tyler to hold up his end of the bet. It was enough that he had an excuse to humiliate him. When people bullied Ben, he didn't stand up for himself in the past, but it wasn't because fighting scared him, but that he didn't see a way to win. With his recent physical changes and his system, he had weapons now, so why should he allow others to bully him? Feeling he had shamed Tyler enough, Ben went back to his dorm room. As he walked through the hallway of his floor, a door to the side opened and a girl backed out of it carrying a stack of papers. She was in a rush. She didn't notice the silent Ben right outside her door. As a result, she bumped into him. The collision had knocked her documents out of her hand and scattered them in the air. As the papers floated in the hallway like clouds, the two of them locked eyes. Ben stopped breathing at that moment. Her clear eyes seemed focused and persistent, like they gazed at the future as much as the present. Her long black hair hung down her chest, blending into her professional dark skirt. High cheekbones accented her small pink lips, now forming an O from the surprise of the collision. When the documents reached the ground, they both snapped out of it. "Oh," the girl cried as she began collecting the papers. Benjamin knelt down and helped her, stealing the occasional glance at this diligent beauty. She blinked for a few seconds as if recalling something, then looked up at him. "Benjamin Romero-san?" the girl asked in a sweet but restrained voice with what sounded to Ben like a Japanese accent. Ben's eyebrows raised. "That's me." She followed up, "We haven't met yet. I'm your RA. I came by your room several times, but your doormate Farrakhan said you were at the gym or in class." "RA? Resident assistant. I'm a grad student, but I get free housing by working here to help undergrads with any issues. Every floor has one. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Miyuki Sato." She held out her hand as she continued stacking the papers with the other, showing how much of a rush she was in. Ben shook her hand, noticing how polite she was. "Now that I look at her, she seems a bit older, around early 20s. "Oh," Miyuki made that cute sound again as she remembered something. "I apologize for not tearing down those awful flyers faster." It took Ben a few seconds to realize that she must have been the one who took them all down when he first entered the dorm. Miyuki continued, "Although I don't get it, Burrito King, you look like you don't even eat burritos." She gazed at Ben's muscular arms as her cheeks became red. "Oh, that was a misunderstanding. It was a Mexican delivery side business I was trying," Ben said with a straight face. "Who's to say it wasn't? Farrak thought so. Maybe she will too." "Oh, side business," she nodded her head. "Thank you, Farrak, you angel," Ben lucked out with his roommate. Miyuki stopped collecting her papers, realizing something. "Then I ruined your business." Her face turned pale, then she bowed. "Gomen nasai." Ben's eyes widened. He lifted her up by her exposed upper arms. Her face went from white to red in the blink of an eye. "It's nothing, you can buy me a drink." Ben didn't know where that came from. After getting into good shape and owning Tyler, his confidence was growing. "You cannot drink here, Benjamin-san. It's not allowed. You are not 21. One of my duties here is to keep an eye out for underage drinking." She looked at him with a stern face like it was a life or death issue. "Not even sake." "Not even sake, Benjamin-san." Miyuki looked down at her watch and realized how late she was running. She collected the rest of her papers. Then she said goodbye to Ben and ran to the elevator. Ben watched her leave, a Japanese cutie with RA duty. 16 days to live. It was time to meet Beluga and Antonio again. Ben sat on a bench in Central Park as he waited for them to arrive. It was a beautiful afternoon with lots of people walking, exercising, or sitting on the grass. There were many women alone or in groups. Beluga came from the direction opposite to where Ben was sitting, so Ben didn't see him when he came close, showing surprise when he arrived. Beluga was just as surprised to see Ben, but for a different reason. Ben had become much thinner. Beluga almost didn't recognize him. Beluga looked down at his big belly and then at Ben's. However, his reaction was the opposite of the normal person. He felt bad for Ben. In Beluga's head, big was beautiful. If Beluga lost that weight, maybe people wouldn't call him Beluga anymore. Maybe they would call him Shrimp. He couldn't take that risk. Ben lost his natural advantage, but Beluga wouldn't rub salt in his wounds. "Sup," Beluga greeted as he sat down next to Ben. Ben observed Beluga's unique style. He still wore his signature purple pimp hat and sunglasses, but exchanged the robe for a purple jogging suit with white stripes. "Is he Barney the dinosaur? Why does he only wear purple?" Ben wondered. "Hey, I've been meaning to ask you. I've noticed your clothes are a bit unorthodox. What's with that?" Ben asked. Beluga turned to Ben with his mouth hanging open. He slid his fingers along the brim of his hat and tipped it. "This righteous gear." "Don't feed the troll," Ben reminded himself as he stayed silent. "This is Peak O.C. King," Beluga said. "They learn." "Yeah, you've heard of the bird Peak O.C.K. with the beautiful feathers. Those birds attract mates with their fancy feathers. The ones with the flashiest feathers get the most females. In pickup, we have a similar concept. Flashy clothes can attract attention from females. Many people will look at you, which is good for your image. Females may even open you. At the very least, you'll have an extra conversation topic when they ask you about the clothes." Ben thought about it. "That's interesting. Maybe I should try that." Then he saw Antonio approaching from down the street. He was Peak O.C. King too. Antonio wore giant green feather shoulder pads that were bigger than his head. They extended out to his elbows from his blue polka dot jacket. This was Peak O.C. King to a whole new literal level. Ben gulped. "I better stick with classic styles. You can't go wrong with those." When Antonio arrived, Beluga looked at his outfit and nodded. People all around the park stared at them as the two showed looks of pride. This was the attention they were after. It didn't matter to them that most of those looks were of disgust. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Ben tried to keep a poker face watching all this. Antonio wasn't too surprised to see Ben's improved body because Ben had warned him ahead of time. After some appetizing small talk, it was time to get to the main course. Beluga spoke to Ben. "All right, last week was only a warm-up. Those lines you used, that was just some crazy nonsense I told you to wipe out your fear of rejection. That's the first step. You need to be able to open a female in a calm manner without nervousness. Saying crazy things helps with that. Since you've already used such offensive lines, you should have an easier time using normal ones, right?" Ben's eyes widened in understanding. I guess it makes sense that commenting on their tits wouldn't be the best opening line. Ben learned something new every day. Beluga continued. The biggest factor in opening isn't what you say, but how you say it, also known as tone and body language. You have to be calm, confident, and obey certain rules. Once you're good enough, you can use almost any opener as long as it isn't offensive. A simple "how are you" can work as well as anything fancy. Ben listened in rapt attention. We'll get to the specifics later. For now, let's start with a simple example. Antonio, go open a two-set to show your cousin how it's done, Beluga stated. Two-set, Ben questioned. Set refers to a group. The number is how many people there are in it, Antonio answered. His eyes burned with anticipation. He looked around and spotted two girls sitting on a towel on the grass. Without hesitation, he approached them. Ben watched as Antonio opened these two complete strangers. He used some opener Ben couldn't hear, but it seemed to go very well. At first, the girls' faces showed surprise. Then after a few exchanges, they loosened up and even asked Antonio questions. A minute later, he was sitting down on their towel laughing with them. You see that? Beluga asked. Ben's jaw hung down. His cousin was always a nerd like him before. He didn't know his cousin had this in him. That was amazing. He walked up to two girls, total strangers, and now it's like he's part of their group. The girls were now patting Antonio's shoulder feathers, giggling about how soft they were. Things were going great. That's how you do it, watch and learn, Beluga said with a smile full of confidence in Antonio. Ben nodded. It seemed he could learn a lot from his cousin. Squawk. A loud bird call erupted through the park. Ben, along with everyone nearby, glanced in the direction of the noise. Ben saw Antonio flapping his arms like an eagle, laughing. Squawk, he cried as he made some kind of joke or impression. The two girls backed away with looks of terror. They picked up their things and ran away as fast as they could. Ben looked over to Beluga, whose confident smile was frozen on his face. Ben couldn't view his eyes, but he imagined they gave off an aura of wanting to die. After a long silence, Beluga said, he's still got a lot to work on after the opening part. Antonio sighed but shook it off and went back to Beluga and Ben. When he reached them, he showed a proud face to Ben and asked, you see that? Ben stared at him. I don't know what I saw. Beluga praised Antonio. That was pretty good. Things got a little weird at the end there, but people don't judge stories only by their endings, right? Nice job. Ben thought the ending is important though. If it sucks, people won't read the story. Then he realized a bizarre truth that didn't apply to most of the web novels he read, as long as they're over 100 chapters and didn't end on hiatus. Beluga looked at Ben. That's the power of peak OC King. Did you see how those females were playing with Antonio's feathers? It was a conversation topic. The peak OC King item also made him seem unique and interesting. Being attention-grabbing is important. All right, I'll show you another example myself. Beluga got up, scanning around like an eagle. He identified 3 cute girls on the grass at the bottom of the hill where he stood. He adjusted his hat until it was at the perfect angle. Then with a smirk radiating confidence, he walked on the grass towards his target. Each step contained a supreme swagger. There was a rhythm to his movements, like a bass beat from a catchy funk song oozing flavor and flash. Each forward motion built his momentum until he became unstoppable. That's when Beluga's eyes popped out. He looked down. His legs were now behind him as his face approached the grass. He'd tripped over a rock. The funk song became death metal. Julia was having a wonderful afternoon. She hadn't seen her 2 girlfriends in months. They were catching up and having a wonderful picnic when she heard a scream and looked to her right. A giant purple bowling ball of doom was rolling towards them at horrifying speed. The 3 girls escaped like fleeing cattle. Strike. Beluga got up from the ground. He removed the bits of grass from his mouth and clothing as he looked around. Scattered sandwiches were strewn all over the beautiful picnic he had demolished. Shrugging, he picked up a sandwich and ate as he went back up the hill, resuming his swagger steps. The previous scene had stupefied Ben and Antonio. They stared with their jaws hanging down until Beluga made it back to their position. Beluga held his chin high. You see that? That's how you get attention. The females even left me homemade sandwiches to show their appreciation. What? Next, it was Ben's turn. This time, Beluga gave him a few normal lines. Ben also felt these lines had more potential. Eager, he got to work. Right away, he noticed a difference. Even though the women still rejected him, they were much more polite about it. At least his face was still dry and slap-free. What was growth? This was growth. Even the tiniest improvements are exciting when you start at the absolute bottom. A few times the responses were even lukewarm. Not cold like a slap in the face, not piping hot like coffee, lukewarm. Ben felt there was room to continue conversing. The problem was he had no idea what to say. As a result, those interactions ended with him stuttering or giving a blank stare. Ben returned to Beluga. What do I say after the opener? Beluga stroked his chinstrap beard. The early phase is all about building attraction. That should be your focus. Attraction, Ben asked. Beluga clarified, you need to attract a female before anything else. That's the first major hurdle. Only then would she be interested enough in you to consider something romantic. If a female isn't attracted, you'd be wasting your time because the best case scenario would be friendship. At the word friendship, Beluga and Antonio showed frightened faces. It was the dreaded friend zone. What types of things affect and increase attraction? Ben asked. Beluga answered, the obvious ones are the more universal things like appearance, social status, and charm. Then there are specific factors which some females may prefer over others, such as common hobbies, intelligence, how well-spoken you are, how manly you are, etc. The influence of the specific factors can vary depending on a female's type. The universal factors can also vary in a female's type, but not as much. For example, a male model will be attractive to the vast majority of females. Ben thought, isn't he describing my system's stats, appearances, looks? I'm guessing charm is the same as charisma. Then there's knowledge, manliness, etc. Beluga spoke, think of it like this. Those previous attributes I mentioned set the foundation for attraction. When a female sees you at first, she'll discover some of those things on sight, such as your appearance. Others she might only discover through speaking with you or others about you, such as your social status, intelligence, etc. When you add all the characteristics, it creates an attraction baseline. If your baseline is high enough, you will attract females right away. Continued, why do men do things like go to the gym, get high-status jobs, become rich, and many other things? A big reason is to raise this attraction baseline with females. Even though making gains in these areas takes a long time, even us pickup artists recognize the value in developing them. Raising the baseline is important because it makes everything that follows easier. Of course, if attraction was fixed and only depended on those factors, then what would be the point of us pickup artists? Our specialization is the last part in attraction and also the most important, seduction skills. This hooked Ben's attention. What are seduction skills? Beluga smirked. Seduction skills are ways to raise attraction in a short time. Even if your baseline was 0 with perfect seduction skills, you could skyrocket attraction to the peak. You could get any female you wanted. Ben gasped. He'd only heard of such things in legends. Right then, he received a system alert. User has unlocked favorability system. User has unlocked favorability subsystem, attraction. Ben squeezed his fists in excitement.
Chapter 13, Jokes and Stat Bumps. Ben unlocked another system function. He asked the system and it explained the attraction system would indicate the attraction level of a woman towards him when they spoke. Isn't this like an NPC favorability system in games? His eyes shined. This excited him for several reasons. First, this favorability system would be very helpful. How useful was it for a clueless nerd to know how a girl felt about him? The answer was obvious. Second, he now knew that by learning more about being a pickup artist, his system would unlock more abilities. After calming down, Ben went back to listening to Beluga, who explained attraction further. The reason seduction skills can raise attraction is that it isn't fixed. Attraction is a perception. It can change inside a female's mind. Thus, by saying and doing various things, a pickup artist can raise attraction. Ben swallowed. What kinds of things? Beluga smirked. To put it in obvious terms, you have to do things females find attractive. There are hundreds of different techniques. Let's start with the basic layer of building attraction through speech, which is communicating attractive qualities about yourself that aren't clear on sight. That may include accomplishments, interesting stories, and things that show your high value. So Ben, tell me, what are some attractive things you've done? Ben was deep in thought for a full minute. Then he had it. 15-game win streak in Rocket League. We'll skip that. The entire section, we're skipping it. I'll ask you again in the distant future. You'll have to work on it, but it's okay, Beluga assured him. That is pretty amazing though. At least the fellow nerd Antonio was impressed. Alright, how about this? Beluga said. Ben, do you know any good jokes? Ben's face became full of confidence as he nodded and smiled. As an internet otaku for so many years, how could he not know excellent jokes? He knew the best jokes. It was his time to shine. Ben saw a single girl sitting and reading a book nearby. He approached her. Excuse me, miss. Yes, she responded. Is that the new Harry Potter? Ben asked in a curious tone. This was one of the new openers Beluga gave Ben to ask a basic question about an item of the girl's, such as a book, a phone, a strange piece of clothing, etc. It was a simple opener to break the ice and was strong in its flexibility. You could adjust it to many situations. Target's current attraction level, indifferent. Above her head, the system produced a small pop-up screen visible to Ben only. It displayed on its own without Ben having to request it. As she responded to Ben, he prepared his follow-up joke. Antonio and Beluga watched on in support and anticipation. When the woman started cursing Ben, the anticipation disappeared, but they still supported him. When the shoe flew at Ben's head and bounced off, their support also withered, sprouting shock in its place. Ben walked back to Antonio and Beluga with a new bump on his head. Antonio questioned Ben, "What joke did you use? Your mom is so fat." "Stop," Beluga realized he should have been more specific about the jokes. "Try ones that aren't insulting." Then Beluga gave Ben a joke to try on another woman. Speaking with the last girl, Ben had watched her attraction level change from indifferent to disinclined, and then to disgusted. The system explained to him the attraction levels from worst to best: mortal, enemy, disgusted, disinclined, indifferent, curious, interested, attracted, fangirl. So far, Ben had started at indifferent, which he reasoned was because of his average 5 in looks. Armed with better material, he spotted another woman and tried again. He opened her in a similar way to the last one, but when it came time to tell the joke, he stuttered because he wasn't used to telling it, and it failed. Ben returned in disappointment when something happened that brightened his mood. "Congratulations, you've completed the weekly challenge. It's a numbers game, open 100 women. Completion status, 100-100. Distributing reward, stat point random x1. Signing stat, communication +1. Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement, junior opener common, open 100 women. Distributing reward, PUA points +100. Ben was ecstatic. Not only did he finish the weekly challenge, but there was even a hidden achievement for the same accomplishment, 2 for the price of 1. Even though he only had 450 points and needed 50 more to get a low-level mystery box, he was still excited. He browsed the next weekly challenge. Weekly challenge, handful of digits, acquire phone numbers from 3 women who are interested in you. Reward stat point random x1. Completion status, 03. After reading the challenge, he took the description to mean the attraction levels of the 3 women had to be at least interested. He assumed it was to stop him from finding loopholes. As far as seeking loopholes, Ben didn't bother wasting time doing so. He still remembered when this shameless system told him no slam donkeys and no pay pigging when he had only thought of some possibilities. Ben's communication stat went up from 3 to 4. Unlike looks, this wasn't a stat where he could notice the difference in a mirror. He was anxious to see if the higher stat would change the results of his approaches, so he searched for a new target right away. After selecting one, he took a deep breath and stepped forward. It was time to see what his new communication stat could do. Chapter 14, Teasing. When he spoke to the woman, Ben noticed a difference right away. The words flowed from his mouth like water, his voice sounded smoother, and even his body felt more comfortable. As Ben delivered the opener and the joke, the woman responded well. She giggled. "Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement. Curiosity killed the cat common, make 1 woman curious. Distributing reward, PUA points +100. There was nothing better than points. Ben didn't even mind the system's vague insult in the achievement title. He had enough to buy a mystery box, but he'd save that for later. Now he needed to focus on the present opportunity. If he could raise this girl's attraction level to interested, then he might get her phone number. Ben persisted in chatting with the girl for a few minutes, but the mood only turned awkward. Despite the higher communication stat, he was still too lacking in experience and conversation topics. After some time, she excused herself and walked away, leaving Ben standing there frustrated. He shook his head. "It's fine, this is already a massive improvement." He returned to Antonio and Beluga. They also observed that Ben had done much better and encouraged him. Ben described to Beluga how well the joke went, but he needed more material to raise attraction. Beluga said, "The best jokes are situation-specific. Not only will they be the most relevant, but they'll display your intelligence in adapting to the situation. Females will pick up on that and become more attracted. I could give you a fish, but it's better to teach you how to fish. So rather than hand you a joke book, I recommend you try inventing teasing-style jokes on the spot to build attraction." Teasing? Ben questioned. He understood the word's general meaning but not the specifics of doing it. Beluga answered, "Teasing is making a light-hearted joke targeting the female. You choose some item or attribute of hers, clothing and accessory, a tattoo, something about her body or hair. Then you make a joke about that, poking fun at her in a subtle way." I understand, I'll give it a try," Ben said. Despite his inexperience, he discovered the boost in communication improved his creative thinking ability. That made it easier to generate conversation ideas. He amped himself up to give it a go. Ben approached a woman stretching after a jog. "Body part," he reminded himself. "A beer belly." As Ben walked back, Beluga and Antonio shook their heads hard. Ben knew it was no good. He moved to a new girl to try again. "Clothing item," he said to himself. "What's up, clown shoes?" He dodged a water bottle. "Okay, that didn't work either, that's all right, 3rd time's a charm." Ben found a new target. "Let's try a different accessory." He adjusted his material. "I like your raccoon hat." He hiked back with his new hickey, the red slap mark on his face. "That was her hair, who could tell? Why is nothing working?" Ben screamed at the heavens. "Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement. Watch your back common, make 1 woman a mortal enemy. Distributing reward, PUA points +100. I even got points for that?" Ben glanced back at that woman he just spoke to. Her strange brown hipster haircut framed her eyes as they spat a venomous glare at him. Behind the malice, Ben only saw more malice and the desire for devilry. He jogged back to Beluga and Antonio, glimpsing over his shoulder every so often to confirm he wasn't tracked. Upon Ben's return, Beluga gazed at him with newfound respect. He didn't know if this kid would ever make it as a pickup artist, but he was a damn prodigy at cursing and offending people. This was a talent. Beluga explained to Ben where he went wrong. You're doing too much. The point of teasing is to be playful and charming, not insulting. There's a spectrum between boring and abusive. Choose something the target won't be sensitive to. The teasing should be funny, which helps loosen things up. He continued, your body language is also important for easing the tension. Enter with a relaxed, joking tone and a light smirk so they know you're playing around. Okay, let's try something a little different. Approach some females and think of a famous person they have a vague resemblance to. Open them by jokingly asking them if they're that person. Okay, I can do that, Ben replied. He spotted another woman gazing at a lake in the distance. As he got closer to her, he went over the plan. Famous person, I got it, don't forget the light smirk. Ben was a quick learner, his body language and tone aligned in perfect harmony. He remembered to speak with a carefree, playful attitude. He did everything Beluga said, it was perfect. Are you Hitler? Ben rationalized it to Beluga. Her short hair looked like Hitler's though. He committed genocide, no homicidal maniacs for F***CK's sake, pick someone with no crimes against humanity, Beluga yelled. Ben reflected and brainstormed, what about oral genocide, is Miley Cyrus out? Chapter 15, Otaku Religion. This is harder than I thought, Ben sighed. All right, I can do this, let's go again. He scanned the horizon, discovering an intriguing girl with bright pink hair in the distance. She was standing next to a flower garden, laughing at something on her phone. Ben thought, pink hair, that's too easy, I'll ask her if she's the stripper from that movie. No damn it, that's offensive, something else. Ben pondered for a while but no one else sprang to mind, then he thought of something. Wait, would that work? Beluga said, famous person, I don't know if characters would qualify. His idea was strange, he wasn't sure if it would fly, in fact he expected it to probably crash and burn. Would she even know who that is? After considering it for a few seconds he sighed. Whatever, I'll just try it, I'm not getting any better ideas anyway. Ben went over to the girl. As he got closer he noticed two things. First, on her pale skin she had an almost star-shaped birthmark under her left eye. Rather than making her unattractive, it added a unique charm. Second, she was super sexy. Her long pink hair stretched down to her waist, curving around her large D-cup breasts, which popped out even more when contrasting with her narrow waist. A skin-tight black top displayed her smooth stomach, accented with a butterfly piercing at her belly. Ben gulped, this is a long shot but I'll never know until I try. He walked up to the girl and launched the stupid line he was sure would bomb. Hey, are you Sakura from Naruto? He delivered the line with the proper playful tone but was still pessimistic. Ben predicted she would glance at him like he was crazy or say no and walk away. At best, she wouldn't understand who Sakura was and ask for clarification. The prognosis wasn't good, but this world had no shortage of medical miracles. PFFFTT. Ben's face froze. Did she just burst into laughter? Haha, I wish, the girl said. Target's current attraction level, interested. Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement, passing interest common, make one woman interested. Distributing reward, PUA points plus 100. Another 100 points? The achievement shocked Ben, but he tried to keep a straight face. It seemed this girl not only didn't walk away but her attraction level jumped right to interested. Was she an anime fan? Ben realized this must be what Ben meant by type. If this girl is an anime fan, then me using such an unusual opener about a subject she likes must have created this amazing result. It made sense that some openers could lead to leaping attraction levels. Not long ago he cliff dived from indifferent to mortal enemy on a raccoon head. The girl interrupted Ben's thoughts. Do you like anime? Ben hesitated. It was an unwritten rule among otakus and superheroes that you never reveal your true identity, especially to a cute girl. No, I can't play this one by the book. I need to take a chance. That's right, he risked it all. The girl stared at him. After a long time she smiled and extended her hand. I'm Katie, please ta Micha. Yes, Ben tossed the otaku Bible in the garbage and it worked. He wouldn't be bound by mortal rules anymore. Hail Satan. Ben shook her hand and offered his name. Now what? He was lucky that he didn't have to decide. After he admitted to liking anime, Katie began an endless rant. She talked about the recent animes she's watched, her favorite characters and scenes. She didn't even give Ben a chance to speak. The dark side offered many benefits. Ben only nodded the entire time. After a while, when Katie was out of breath, Ben's instincts told him the moment had arrived and he took a stab with his devil-forked tongue. Katie, I have to go, but can we exchange numbers and talk later? Ben's tone was relaxed but his heart was thumping. He was silent for a few seconds, considering it. All right, give me your number, Katie said. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I'll die in 16 days. Ben knew better than to give his number to a girl. He was thankful that Beluga already gave him the perfect line for this occasion. I don't pick up calls from unknown numbers, so put your contact in first. Ben took out his phone and put it in her hand to input her number. To Ben, the line sounded like something a drug dealer would say, but according to Beluga, women like that. After he said it, Katie's eyes flashed. Then she put her number in the phone without further hesitation. It worked. Ben was dancing in his mind. Morpheus Beluga was right. He began to see the matrix. There was one last step left. He still remembered what Beluga said. These females are sneaky. Sometimes they give fake numbers. Be sure to call it and see her phone ring before you leave. It's not weird. This is called double-checking, okay? Even NASA does it. Even though something sounded off, Ben couldn't afford to care about it. He pressed call on her contact. When her phone lit up, Ben knew he succeeded. Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement. If you throw enough *T at the wall, some is bound to stick. Common. Acquire a phone number from one woman who is interested in you. Distributing reward, PUA points plus 100. He gained another 100 points and now had 850. His weekly challenge also progressed. As for that brutal burn of an achievement name, Ben didn't care. The system was like a beauty with a bad temper. He would put up with her as long as she kept giving him benefits. Ben saw the chance to live. If he kept going at this rate, maybe he could really complete the life and death mission. No, he'd already given up his otaku religion. He'd do it no matter what. Chapter 16. What is charisma? Getting the number fired him up, but Ben knew to quit when ahead. Beluga advised him after getting a number he should exit. It's always best to leave on a high note, so Ben said a quick goodbye and walked away. Beluga and Antonio smiled with pleasant surprise. They didn't expect Ben would get a phone number on their second day together. What's more, that girl was hot. Way to go, cuz, Antonio congratulated. Beluga nodded many times in appreciation. Ben narrated what happened with them. When they heard he admitted to being an otaku, their eyebrows elevated to their hairlines. Ben's unorthodox opener and the girl's response were like a nerd's wet dream. It was not typical. You could say Ben lucked out, but the always elusive luck is only caught by those who risk chasing it. It was approaching sunset in the park, so they called it a day, agreeing to meet again the next week. Ben was tired and eager to open a new mystery box, so he returned to his dorm. Walking to the subway, Ben's mind couldn't stop thinking about what his mystery box could contain. So far, he'd only gotten consumables, but there were probably many other types of items he hadn't seen yet. He wondered about it. I can imagine some real-world items. Could there even be skills? He licked his lips in anticipation. Ben sat on his small double bed as he stared at his system screen. His foot subconsciously tapped the floor in rhythm as he was in the middle of a tough decision. 850 points, the system mentioned it hides some store items until I have enough points. Should I save up to 1,000 first? No, I only have 16 days left. Last time I didn't get any points for a week. Who knows how long it'll take. I need to use any potential advantage now, he settled. Opening up the store screen, Ben used 500 points to buy a low-level mystery box. It materialized in his lap and he opened it. Ben knew by now to close his eyes, only opening them after a few seconds. When the light receded, he saw a familiar item. Another stat growth multiplier. Ben wasn't sure how to feel. It was useful, but it was hard to say if he could make significant enough gains to change his fate in 2 weeks. Even if it was for looks again, he suspected he'd at most gain 1 point, since he'd already eaten the easy beginner gains the prior week when he lost his flab. He knew losing fat is much easier than gaining muscle. The only difference Ben noticed was that this card was a different color, light blue. He touched it and a new pop-up emerged. Mid-level stat growth multiplier, consumable rare charisma x1. Charisma, that's pretty go. He froze like a deer in the headlights. Wait, he scrutinized the screen's information again word for word. Mid-level rare, Ben stood up and gasped. Oh my god, would it do what he thought? He asked the system and verified it. Yes, 100x, this card would multiply his results by 100x. Ben did the math. That means over 7 days I'll get almost 2 years worth of results. B-I-N-G-O-O, he danced and did karate moves around the room. Lam asterisk. Barik entered to uncover Ben in the middle of a Hadoken. His eyes widened. That's a nice Hadoken, bro. Farik appreciated it. Thanks, man. His roommate even had great taste. This was Ben's day. These two roommates had seen little of each other. The prior weeks of university kept them both busy, Farik with studying and Ben with not dying. Ben wanted to catch up, but it wasn't the time, so he made some small talk and excused himself to get some air. The eggshell-colored walls of the dorm hallway were cluttered with new flyers and informational bulletins, but Ben was too distracted to read them. He was still recovering from the shock of receiving that mid-level item. Rare was the highest quality item he could get from the low-level mystery box, so it was incredible that he lucked out and got it. He didn't know the odds, but they couldn't have been too high. Ben didn't know if the system was helping him or the heavens were on his side, but if he could use the stat growth multiplier well, it might give him a chance to make breakout gains. This is what he needed. His charisma was 0, so there was massive room for improvement. Any charisma-related activity he did would generate earth-shattering growth. Only, why couldn't he think of one? Now that I think about it, what is charisma? Ben scratched his head. He paced in the hallway as he considered it, steps advancing in uncertain gait on the brown carpet. He lost track of the outer world as he delved into his ideas, but after some time he still couldn't grasp it. It wasn't a simple stat like looks, just how would you describe it? Sighing, Ben planned to ask his system, but he first wanted to know how society defined it. Snapping out of his previous trance, he walked to the elevator as he pulled out his phone and searched. One definition he found was a personal magic of leadership arousing special popular loyalty or enthusiasm for a public figure, such as a political leader. 1. Ben shook his head. I'm not a politician. Next. Another definition was, you say that someone has charisma when they can attract, influence, and inspire people by their personal qualities. 2. That confused Ben. Doesn't everyone who influences people use their personal qualities? Personal qualities are inherent, there's no avoiding the use of them. I still don't get it. He looked for another one. That single, undescribable, intangible quality that a girl with big jugs has. Ben looked at the source, author Wetcoaster on Urban Dictionary. Well, I can't argue against that, but it still doesn't help me, he sighed. Okay, let's move on to the system's definition. Only after speaking with the system did he understand it. Charisma was a multiplier on all his stats. It was similar to how attraction started at a baseline, then seduction skills could raise attraction from there. All his other stats were a baseline, and charisma was a soft skill expressed through communication, which magnified the effectiveness of his stats on attracting and influencing others. Communication could happen through his speech or body language. His appearance alone could even give off a sense of charisma when people looked at him, which multiplied the attraction of his looks. It was an amazing stat. With Ben's 0 charisma, he received no multiplier at all. Meanwhile, someone with marginal charisma could have all their other stats identical to Ben but crush him in every social activity. That's why you have some media personalities with mediocre looks or communication skills who are still very popular. Even with a definition, Ben's main issue was still there. How could he improve charisma? Ding asterisk. He looked up from his phone to see the doors for the elevator open. Ding asterisk. The elevator doors closed, but Ben still stood outside, not having entered. A flyer posted on the elevator's side had mesmerized him. Flyer said motivational speaking seminar. Ben gasped. That's it, he shouted. Chapter 17, Stat Gain is a hell of a drug. Charisma is all about influencing people with communication. Ben also read that one common trait of charismatic people is excellent speaking skills, so what better way to improve charisma than studying motivational speaking? It should also develop his communication stat. It was perfect. Ben took down the information on the flyer and checked the website on his phone for details. Even though the seminar wasn't free, it was for students, so it was affordable. However, there was an issue: it would interfere with one of Ben's classes. The seminar would start tomorrow and last for 7 days, using several hours per day. At the scheduled time, Ben had a writing class. This was a problem. His eyebrows pinched as he considered how to resolve the conflict. After a short while, he realized it was pointless to worry about it. Time was running out. What was the use of class if he died in 2 weeks? Ben made a firm decision. He would stop going to all his classes. Rather than wasting his time there, he was better off opening women and attending the seminar. If still alive in 2 weeks, then he'll return to his studies. Would his parents or teachers protest? Let them complain to his corpse. If Ben's parents found out he was skipping classes to chase women, they would choke him to death, but they didn't have a dominatrix system sitting on their heads threatening to kill them. He used his phone to buy a ticket for the event on the website. Is this it? Ben was gazing at a classroom entrance with people shuffling into it. It was the noisiest area in the pearl-colored hallway. Near the door was a wooden desk and a chair with a person sitting there checking for tickets from everyone who entered. It's her. Ben recognized the person and approached to say hello. Benjamin-san, it was Miyuki, Ben's RA. It turned out she worked as a teaching assistant for the professor who ran this seminar. She must have posted the flyer in our dorm's floor, Ben realized. The two exchanged a few words and he walked inside, not wanting to disrupt her work. Hall is what Ben thought when he saw the classroom. He realized it differed from the others in the university. He'd already attended enormous wide lecture halls, ones that could house hundreds of students. While this one wouldn't fit so many, it had towering multi-story ceilings like it was a room with special acoustics meant to intensify speeches and the judgments of those listening. The professor must have reserved this solemn space for this wreath. The seats were arranged in a semicircular formation focused around a speaking area at the front. They filled up as people arrived one after the other. Some minutes later, everyone who bought tickets was present and the professor closed the door. Miyuki was the last to enter and sat in the last empty seat. By coincidence, it was right next to Ben. Hello again, Benjamin-san, Miyuki greeted with a warm smile. He greeted her back with a cordial smile. Meanwhile, in his mind, he grinned like an idiot because of the fortuitous seat arrangement. Ben inhaled the light scent of vanilla emitted from her body. He didn't know if the smell was natural or perfume, and he didn't care. He just treated his snout. Life was good. On the other side of Miyuki, a man watched their interaction and frowned. This B*TCH greeted this kid before me. He had very short black hair and aquiline nose and was as slender as a snake. He was older than Ben, around the same age as Miyuki, with darting eyes that displayed a wily temperament. Miyuki turned to the man, greeting him with a flat voice. "Hello again, Zachary-san." At that, the man's frown disappeared. "Hello, Miyuki," he responded with a shrill voice, leaning forward to get closer to her. He'd been working on convincing Miyuki to date him for the past year. Zachary was also an RA, a fellow teaching assistant, and was here to help the professor. He thought having so much in common would be conducive to a relationship, yet Miyuki always told him she didn't date colleagues. He took that to be bullsh*T. Instead of speaking with him, Miyuki turned to Ben. "Benjamin-san, how did you discover this seminar?" Benjamin replied that he found the flyer by the elevator, to which Miyuki laughed and admitted she posted it. As the two continued to chat, Zachary's face became uglier and uglier. "Who is this little *T? When everyone settled in, the professor went to the front and spoke. His words were eloquent and attention-grabbing. Ben understood why he was teaching this subject. Ben traced the palm-sized stat growth multiplier card in his jacket pocket. He'd waited until now to use it so that he got full value of the 7 days. When no one was watching, he took it out. He'd verified a while ago that others couldn't see his system items, including his screens. Still, they would see his motions when he used them, so he tried to be careful. Not wanting to waste more time, Ben activated it with a thought. Whoosh, his dopamine receptors fired up like a blazing forest. It was like a drug. Similar to when he used the stat growth multiplier for looks, an intense drive struck him to develop his charisma. I need to be influential, be motivational, charismatic. He was developing the mindset of a junkie. The system was a drug dealer in disguise. And imagine this was the urge con artists and politicians felt when they started their careers. As the professor lectured, Ben paid attention to every word. He imagined each syllable as an energy ball containing a fraction of a stat point floating into his head. "Yes, come to daddy, feed me, don't stop talking, don't stop." His bloodshot eyes ogled the professor like he was a Victoria's Secret model. Professor gulped and loosened his shirt collar. His spine felt a chill like he was being watched by a perverted beast. As a professional, he brushed it off and explained what they would do in the seminar. First, he'd teach about all the factors involved in motivational speaking. Then they'd participate in various activities. At the end of the week, everyone would give a motivational speech and receive constructive feedback. At the moment, they started an introductory activity. The professor said, "Everyone, the first thing we'll do is allow each of you to introduce yourselves with a few sentences. You may consider this your first activity." As the professor's assistant, Zachary chose who would speak. He went around the room, pointing to people one at a time by seating order. Ben sat in the back, so he was one of the last to go. He'd always avoided public speaking because the thought of people judging him made him uneasy. He even made excuses and called in sick when there were projects in his school that required it. As a result, he hadn't done it for many years. This time, however, he didn't feel the need to run. He'd been opening girls for several weeks now. This was only speaking in front of a few strangers. How hard could it be? When Ben's turn arrived, Zachary sneered but pointed to Ben and told him to stand. Ben already knew what he would say and got up. Moments after he left the chair, the confident smile on his face froze. He felt like he'd been ejected into the absolute zero of space. A terrible wave of fear flooded his body, like a premonition of imminent disaster. Thump thump. His heart threatened to burst out of his chest. His mouth became dry, breath short, his eyes popped out, bouncing around the room seeking the cause. "What's going on?" he panicked. Chapter 18, A Bet to Win the Girl. This was the moment Ben learned he had a phobia of public speaking and the physical consequences of it. He'd read about this last week in his Psychology 101 class. It's a common fear. In fact, it's the most common fear, affecting 73% of the population. In the statistics of the most common phobias, the fear of public speaking is even ahead of death. People are more afraid of public speaking than death. If you were to give 73% of people 2 options, speak in public or die, they would choose to die. At least that's what the statistics say. Ben was a man of science. He was also a part of the 73%. The worst part was he didn't know it until now. It seemed talking to an unknown woman wasn't the same as speaking in front of a group of strangers. Helpless in front of this classroom of judgment, sweat formed on his forehead as he withstood the heat of dozens of eyes beaming at him. Ben had been silent for 10 seconds and students were starting to whisper. He knew he had to say something, anything. My name is Ben. Zachary noticed Miyuki's worried expression. Returning his gaze to Ben, he narrowed his eyes and formed a mocking grin. "Okay, thank you, next," Zachary cut him off. The interruption hadn't upset Ben but instead provided relief. He was too nervous. Releasing a deep exhale, he walked over to Zachary to get a name tag for later group activities, then he returned to his seat and put the tag on his chest. Everyone had introduced themselves, so the professor returned to the front. Ben gripped the wooden desk's edges and closed his eyes for several moments, taking deep breaths to calm his still shaken nerves. When he opened them, he discovered people snickering under their breath. Others asked them what was funny and they pointed to Ben. After a minute, half the class had at least giggled at him. "Do I have something on my face?" Ben rubbed his cheeks. "Benjamin-san," Miyuki's appeared sorrowful as she pointed at his chest. Ben glanced down to see his name tag, BBB Benjamin. He looked at Zachary, who wore an amused expression while writing some notes. The professor was busy drawing on a whiteboard and hadn't noticed this development. Ben frowned. He didn't understand why this guy would target him. Miyuki reached over to remove the name tag from Ben's chest, taking a pen and crossing out the extra B's. Zachary's eyes knitted his brows at this. Rather than be upset at Miyuki, he scowled at Ben. That's when Ben understood. "So that's how it is, jealous over a girl," he snorted. It was annoying, but he didn't have time for this now. Ben ignored Zachary's provocative stare and returned to listening to the lecture. The first session of the seminar ended and most of the people had left. Ben was outside the classroom helping Miyuki move the desk and chair inside as a thank you for her earlier kindness. "Benjamin-san, do you know what speech you will give at the end of the week?" Miyuki asked. He shook his head. He hadn't thought about it yet. A sneer came from the classroom's entrance. Zachary sauntered out with a cocky smirk. "Speech? Can he even give a speech? If it's anything like today, it would take 3 hours to through it, haha." Ben and Miyuki frowned at this random insult. "Zachary-san, you are being rude," Miyuki rebuked. "I'm merely offering this undergrad some advice. Not everyone can speak in front of a group. Some people lack the necessary courage." He glared at Ben when he saw how close he stood to Miyuki. Ben had been an eyesore for Zachary since the start of the class. Who does Ben think he is talking to Miyuki in his presence? She was Zachary's target and his property until he finished with her. It would be best if he scared Ben off today, then Miyuki would only have him to speak with in class. Although Miyuki worked for the same professor, they worked during separate time slots, so there weren't many opportunities to be together like this. How could he give that precious time up to some snot-nosed brat? Was it petty? Sure, but this was the power a teaching assistant held over students. Too bad. And watch Zachary bluff and bluster. His intentions were written all over his face. Does he think he'll bully me out of the seminar with this? I've dealt with much worse. In high school, that one guy edited my face into a bestiality video. Everyone called me Ben the Goat *seeker for 2 years. You think you'll shake me? He showed pride in living through the ordeal. Being bullied was like surviving a war. Ben's eyes glowed as he dived into memories of air sirens and bomb shelters. Then that guy released a remastered edition and I became Ben the Goat. This is nothing. Get skills, noob. 2-war vet. Ben smirked. "Zachary, right, how about we make a bet?" Zachary crossed his arms. He didn't know where Ben was going with this. Ben continued, "From what I've heard, you teaching assistants will also give a speech at the end of the week as an example to the students. Isn't that right?" "So what?" Zachary asked. "So here's the bet. During the last class, whichever one of us gives a worse speech will never bother Miyuki again." Zachary clenched his jaw. This little *T. Miyuki stood there blinking. How did she become involved? When she saw Zachary grimacing and Ben glancing at her with a reassuring smile, she understood. "Benjamin-san is trying to help me." She realized Ben noticed Zachary pestering her. Ben was trying to stop it, even though public speaking was impossible for him and would be very embarrassing. Miyuki gazed at Ben and her heart grew warm. Zachary spoke, "Not that you stand a chance of winning, but what you're saying is ridiculous. She and I work together, it wouldn't be possible. Besides, are you even qualified to bother her? Do I need to compete with a lowly freshman like you to talk to her? You can't even put a sentence together. What a joke. Look, kid, you've pissed me off. Either get lost from the seminar or I'm going to make your life in class a living hell." Miyuki now understood why Zachary made fun of Ben earlier. She also realized she was the only one who could do something in this situation. With or without the wager, Zachary was going to give Ben a hard time. She knew Zachary. He was capable of many dirty tricks. When they first sat down, Ben told her how important this seminar was to him. It's also her fault he was here. She put the flyer up. She couldn't let him suffer or drop out because of her. "No, I'll go on a date." Miyuki's face grew red as she said the words. Ben and Zachary became silent, staring at her, unsure of what she said. "What?" Zachary asked. "I'll go on a date with the winner of the competition, but there is one condition. Zachary-san may not bother Benjamin-san during the seminar." Miyuki tried to be a kind person, and she appreciated when someone went out of his way to be kind to her. New York City was full of people, but it was even more full of bitter coldness. She knew how rare it was to meet someone like Ben that would expose himself to humiliation to help her. Even though Ben was sure to lose and she would have to go with Zachary, it was only one date. It was the least she could do to let him take this seminar in peace. "Miyuki, you don't have to do this," Ben said. "Yes, do this," Ben thought. "No, it's okay." Miyuki gave Ben a gentle smile. Zachary wore a weasel-like grin. "We've got a bet. That's perfect. Miyuki, you can ask the professor to judge the best speech. You should believe he'll give a fair assessment, right?" Miyuki nodded. Zachary had complete confidence in his victory. Although he wasn't an amazing speaker, he'd been a teaching assistant for the professor for a year. He gained a lot of experience with public speaking. Meanwhile, Ben couldn't even pronounce his name without stuttering. His date was a sure thing. What a great deal this turned out to be. Now that Ben was no longer a threat, Zachary changed to prioritizing his professional image. He put on his teacher's face like nothing ever happened. Benjamin, we'll see who's the better speaker at the end of the week. Good luck. Ben returned a frosty smile. The only thing you'll be seeing is stars when I embarrass you in front of your precious boss and students. Chapter 19, Charismatic Evolution. 8 days to live. Ben had to admit that when the countdown hit single digits, he felt like his heart stopped. He panicked, but what could he do? He was already doing everything he could. Ben sat on his bed and thought about recent events. This past week, he spent every waking moment working on his charisma and pickup skills. He skipped all his classes. He went to the seminar every day. When he wasn't at the seminar, he read everything he could about charisma in the library and online. He even found ongoing university courses related to motivational speaking and snuck into them. He searched for techniques to reduce public speaking anxiety and practiced them. When university closed, he hit the streets and did approaches and even practiced motivational speaking then too. How? He approached large groups of women instead of individual ones. That felt more like public speaking in front of a large group, which helped him gain experience and reduce his nervousness. Ben's effort was not in vain. His first gain was that he completed his weekly challenge yesterday. After many approaches, he became better and better. His studies into charisma and motivational speaking showed genuine dividends in pickup successes. In the end, he got 2 more phone numbers. Congratulations, you've completed the weekly challenge. Handful of digits, acquire phone numbers from 3 women who are interested in you. Reward stat point random x1. Completion status 3-3. Distributing reward stat point random x1. Signing stat charisma +1. The system rolled the stat point into charisma. Ben didn't love that because he was already working on charisma under a 100x boost of the mid-level stat growth multiplier. Still, he wouldn't complain about a free stat point. There wasn't any achievement this time, but that was fine. This was his new weekly challenge. Weekly challenge, a frog's kiss, kiss 1 new woman who is attracted to you. Reward stat point random x1. Completion status 0-1. Ben wasn't sure how he felt about it. He hadn't kissed a girl since he hit puberty, but this was a necessary stepping stone. If he couldn't even kiss a girl, how could he seduce one within 8 days? Ben knew he needed to step up. It's a good thing that with his recent gains, he was optimistic about achieving better pickup results. The weekly challenge was only an appetizer. The main course was his stats. Looks 5 average. His looks hadn't changed. Even though Ben continued going to the gym, it would take a long time to see gains now. Charisma 7 high charisma, entry-level standard for related professions. This was Ben's biggest gain. His charisma shot all the way up from 0 to 7. A 100x bonus was no joke. That's 2 years worth of results. During the past week, Ben took no time off. The stat growth multiplier made him concentrated and motivated to work on his charisma. He spared no effort, and this was the outcome. Every morning, Ben woke up with enthusiasm for new stat gains. There was only one issue. Over the last few days, he learned more about the stat system. Watching his charisma skyrocket, he understood one unfortunate fact: as stats increased, raising them further became exponentially more difficult. The stat system wasn't linear but curved. Ben perceived this when his charisma reached 5 after 3 days, then took another 3 whole days to reach 6. That was almost 1 year of results to raise it by 1 point. Raising each level was harder than all the previous ones combined. The only reason it was 7 now was because of the bonus stat from the weekly challenge. Ben felt if he used another mid-level stat growth multiplier on charisma, he might not even be able to raise it by 1 point. The system wouldn't make it easy to become a Superman. Still, Ben had a stupid grin. From 0 to 7, that was a life-changing transformation. Even though growth would be difficult later, how could he complain? He was a human waste 3 weeks ago. This was an evolution. Social status 2, get your life together. Ben's face fell. The system never let him smile for too long. Seduction skills 1, still more proficient in insults than anything else. So are you. After opening so many women, Ben's seduction skills gained the first point at last. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Knowledge 4, entry-level student. Manliness 3, barebones qualifications as a breeding slave. Breeding slave, what kind of society does this system come from? Communication 5, average speaker. His communication had also gone up by 1 from all the practicing. The stat growth multiplier didn't cover communication, so a 1-point gain in a week was already a significant result. Personal talent 2, you're becoming top-heavy on other stats, still an uncultured swine. Did you have to end on an insult? I'm trying to stay positive, I have a big speech today. Ben took a deep breath. He knew it was pointless to ask for politeness from this damn thing. Today was a big day. It was the final class of the public speaking seminar. This was the day everyone would give their speech and Ben would face off against Zachary. As Ben looked at his 7 charisma and 5 communication, his face morphed into an evil grin. Last week everyone gave him the nickname Stuttering Stanley. Today they'd change it to Face-Slapping Frank. Chapter 20, The Crucial Moment. The professor was at the front of the classroom giving his last lecture to all the students. It had been an enjoyable and productive week for everyone. That was also the case for Ben since Zachary didn't give him any problems, not even any name-tag insults. Zachary must have feared Miyuki refusing to follow through with the date had he done so. The professor smiled with satisfaction. To various degrees, most of the students had improved their motivational speaking ability. Observing growth in students was the thing he enjoyed the most about his job. Now he would see how much they've grown. He wrapped up and it was time for the end of seminar speeches. Each student either composed or chose a famous short speech and would recite it in front of the class. Afterward, there would be a short period where everyone provided feedback. The first ones up were Miyuki and Zachary. Everyone expected them to be the best since they had the most experience. By allowing them to act first, the professor hoped their speeches could serve as goals for the students to aspire to. Miyuki gave a cute speech espousing the beauties of Japanese gardens. This light topic showed how motivational speaking was a general skill that someone could apply to any area of communication. As long as you wanted to get a point across, motivational speaking could help you do it. Zachary went up next. He gave a determined speech about the need for higher civilian oversight for national security. It was full of anti-terrorism ravings. The topic wasn't to everyone's appetite, but even Ben had to admit it was a powerful speech that attracted each person's attention. Scumbag Steve over there has a way with words. This must be how those poison punch cult leaders get their start. The professor complimented the speech in front of the class. He thought that Zachary was his best teaching assistant at applying the material. Even though Zachary's level wasn't quite at a professional standard, it was above that of a student. Afterward, the students gave their speeches. Some of them created their own and others used famous speeches from public figures. Ben was the last in line. Zachary had arranged this on purpose. He knew the other students would be nervous and focused on their own speeches, so Zachary made it so they would finish and relax before Ben went up, allowing them to enjoy him make a mockery of himself. Ben's turn would soon be up. Miyuki looked over at him and chewed on her lip in worry. She never expected him to win. She only wanted Zachary to leave him alone for the week, which he did so far. You could say she reached her goal, so there was no point in Ben giving a speech since this seminar didn't give credits or grades anyway. Benjamin-san, she said, you don't have to speak, it's fine. Ben saw her concern and felt warmth inside. This girl sure was the thoughtful type. Still, how could he not go up? Of course he would. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I'll be looking forward to our date. At that confident response, Miyuki cocked her head in confusion. She didn't see how it was possible for Ben to give a better speech than Zachary. Zachary was the best speaker here, even better than her. It was obvious that Ben only began public speaking a week ago. He was so nervous then, he couldn't even say his name. At best, he'd be able to finish a speech today without anxiety destroying him. She rationalized that Ben must have been trying to ease her worries. Benjamin-san is the stubborn type, Miyuki thought. Even though he knew it would be hopeless, Ben still ran into the danger like a samurai charging into a hail of bullets. Miyuki's evaluation of Ben rose a level. She became curious about him. Ben didn't fail to notice Miyuki's change. Well, the system made it hard to overlook it. Target's current attraction level, curious. The last student before Ben finished her speech. Soon it would be Ben's turn. Zachary told the professor about this contest and he was reluctant to agree at first. He found it unprofessional for a teaching assistant to compete against a student, but Zachary convinced him. Zachary said Ben issued the challenge to create a difficult goal to motivate himself to work hard, so Zachary was doing his duty to help a student. That was how Zachary used motivational speaking to deceive his own teacher. He even felt the professor should have been proud. Miyuki also verified that Ben issued the challenge and asked the professor to judge. Since it was a self-imposed challenge by Ben to motivate himself, the professor couldn't deny it. Of course, he didn't know Miyuki would go on a date with the winner. Otherwise, he wouldn't agree to become a pimp. The professor wasn't the only one who knew about the contest. Zachary approached several students and convinced them to spread the rumor of the bet to everyone in class. Since Ben had the balls to challenge him, Zachary wanted to make sure Ben was humiliated to the max. Step, Ben walked to the front of the classroom. It was time to show the results of his efforts. When Miyuki saw no notes in his hands, only a bottle of water, her eyebrows wrinkled. It wasn't necessary to memorize the material. That was much more difficult. That's why no one had done so, not even her or Zachary. Yet it appeared this was Ben's plan. Miyuki bit her nails in worry. Professor's eyes flashed, but he said nothing. Zachary beamed a huge grin. This idiot was already going to suffer, but he's even asking for death. Wonderful. Ben didn't miss Zachary's scorn. He put on an icy smile himself. You just wait. You're about to get brutalated, then I'm going to use your pain as coal in my furnace of ambition. Everyone gave Ben strange glances. He was rubbing his hands together like an evil scientist cooking up a nefarious plot. Cough. In any case, the room became silent. Ben worked hard for this moment. It won't go like last time, I'm ready. He licked his lips in preparation to speak and looked around at everyone. Then, he felt the gazes of each person on his body like a piercing needle. Thump thump. It appeared again, crippling anxiety.